this even work? I don't know. It's so funny. I got lights everywhere. I got lights. I got things. What are we doing? See, check out the set. I got lights. Oh, no, there's a light. And a light on the bed. And then I got my thing. I'm in Bryce's room. Yeah. Check it out. It's kind of fun. I think the hardest part about all this is setting up my damn iPad. I'm not an iPad kind of guy. Bring this a little closer. I'm not an iPad kind of guy, right? And so now I've got to figure this part out. And I got my little... I didn't even notice at first. See, it comes with a little magnet-y thing on there. So you kind of go like this. Nope. Like this. And then like this. And you can just put the magnet on your shirt. It's supposed to work. I don't know. We'll find out here in a second. Switch on to Road Reporter is what they want you to use. And I'm going to try to record. I guess it's picking me up. Hey, yep, it is. All right. So I'm not quite ready to record yet. I got to run upstairs and grab one more thing. No, I don't. I don't really have to do that. Here we go. So, wow, these lights. Okay. So if you're just listening on the podcast, you've missed out on what I'm doing here. I'm kind of set up in Bryce's room because right now my downstairs is available. So I'm doing that, and this is casting a big shadow over here. We got a light on a stand. Oh, there we go. And this guy over here, I don't know what that's really not all that good, right? What if I just take this light and... If you're just listening on the podcast, I apologize. Well, let's see. We can dim it. Got these lights a couple years ago. I think I've used them like 3 times. That's okay. Anyway, a little artsy. I got a lot of light on my left side. No, but right side. So here we go. So today, the podcast, welcome. If you were listening to the last one, and the way I introduced it was I'm Big Zig. And this is the Moments That Last podcast. And then I kind of laughed because one of my favorite podcasts that I listen to is put out by the Professional Photographers of America, the PPA. And their host, I can't remember his name. Wow, the shirt's wrinkly. I can't remember his name. But the way he starts a podcast is just like that. It's, my name is Bob Smith. And this is so I tried to emulate that last time. I thought it was kind of funny, so I made myself laugh. But anyway, I am Big Thing, and this is the Moments That Last podcast, season 2, episode 2. And in keeping with the overall theme of, I was trying to maintain an overall theme of the month of family. And then today's subtopic is Vermont history a little bit. And I had done some research on this particular piece of Vermont history before I decided that this month was going to be family related. And to be fair, I probably should have stuck with my original plan and found something family related that I could use, and then just done a little bit more research. But, things being such that they are, I'm going to try to tie this into family, but I'm not quite sure how I'm going to do that. Some of my travels with hospice bring me to the same places over and over again, depending on what my schedule looks like. So I work nights and weekends, and when I see people on the weekend, they're scheduled visits, and they're typically on patients who either need to be seen every day or who are also being seen every day, but also categorized to be on our 7-day list. And that just means we anticipate that there's going to be a significant change, or even that the patient will pass within 7 days of coming on to the 7-day list. So when I do that, when I work, I don't have a specific caseload myself. I just... it's completely reactionary for me, except on the weekends when there are scheduled visits. And so, all that being said, what happens a lot for me is that I end up going back to the same places multiple times. And they're different places each weekend. For example, this past weekend, I was down in the Wethersfield, Vermont area quite a bit. 2 weeks ago, when I was on shift and did all this stuff, this research for this project, I was up in the Stratford, Vermont area. And I'd been up there a couple times, but this time I had a little extra time on my hands, so I did some research. Here's some information of one of Stratford's most famous and prominent native sons. A gentleman by the name of Senator Justin Morrill. He was born April 14th, 1810 in Stratford, Vermont, the son of Mary Hunt, Proctor, and Nathaniel Morrill. His father, Nathaniel, was a farmer, a blacksmith, and a militia leader who attained the rank of colonel. And so he was born in 1810, so the dad was in the militia back in Revolutionary War times. Okay, so that's the kind of the time frame, and this gentleman himself was born in 1810. He died December 28th, so it's kind of fitting that we're doing him now, which is one of the reasons I picked him. He was born December 28th in 1898, so post-Civil War, okay? And he died in Washington, D.C. He actually died in office, not while he was in office, but he was in office. He attended schools in Stratford, not Stratford, but Stratford, Vermont. He also attended Thetford Academy and a school called Randolph Academy, which I didn't know there was such a thing. So this has prompted me to try to dig a little bit more and find out about Randolph Academy, because I grew up in the Randolph area, and it may be the old name, the old timey, as the kids say, the name for what's now part of Vermont College system or something. But when I graduated from there in 2003, it was Vermont Technical College, and that may be Randolph Academy. I don't know. Stay tuned. Senator Morrill, worked as a merchant's clerk in Stratford, Vermont, and in Portland, Maine. He was partners in business with a gentleman, Judge Jedediah Harris, and together they owned 4 stores throughout the state. And so they had mercantile, they had general stores, that kind of thing. Senator Morrill invested in several business ventures. He was an investor in banking, he was an investor in railroads, and he was an investor in real estate. And in the late 1840s, so not in the late 1840s, I'm sorry, in late 1840, so he was 30 years old, not quite 31 years old, he was financially secure enough to retire. I'm just going to leave that right there. Financially secure enough to retire at 31 years old back in the mid 1800s. He took up farming, gentleman farming, as they called it, and he became active in the Whig Party. Now, back then they had Whigs and Tories, and in 1854, he was elected to the U.S. Congress as a Whig. And that's W-H-I-G. And the Whigs kind of morphed into the Republican Party. And this gentleman, Senator Justin Morrill, was a founding member of the Republican Party in the United States of America. Take that for what it's worth. Doesn't matter. Your opinion of the Republican Party or the Democratic Party doesn't matter to me. And we're talking about the 1854. So, whatever. He served on the Ways and Means Committee. Now, I wasn't quite sure what that was, and the Ways and Means Committee is responsible for tax writing. The committee has jurisdiction over all taxation, tariffs, Social Security, Medicare, unemployment benefits, child support laws, foster care, adoption, and various other measures. The committee members are not permitted to serve on any other House committee unless granted a waiver. So, a lot of the other committees in Senate, House of Representatives, you can be on different committees. You can be on the Transportation Committee. You can be on the Agricultural Committee and all these different kinds of committees. But if you're on the Ways and Means Committee, that's it. That's the only one that you can be on, and it's the only one that you have to pay attention to. And I think that's pretty cool. He was also when he wasn't. While he wasn't on the Ways and Means Committee, he was also on the Joint Committee for Reconstruction. And now keep in mind, this was all happening right after the American Civil War. So, we had this period of Reconstruction after the Civil War, where it was, I guess, right around also the same time as the Industrial Revolution, and we were trying to rebuild the country that had been torn apart. And so he was part of that committee too. He helped draft the 14th Amendment, which is mostly remembered for addressing citizenship rights and equal protection under the law. Ratified in 1868, the 14th Amendment came right on the heels of the Emancipation Proclamation, which freed slaves in America. So he was instrumental in coming up with the drafting of the 14th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. In 1866, he was elected to the U.S. Senate as a Republican. So he was in Congress. In 1854, he was elected to Congress. 1866, he was elected to the U.S. Senate. And he served nearly 31 years until his death. At the time of death, his 43-year, 299 days of continual congressional service was the longest in U.S. history. So, in 1866, 43 years, just shy, like 2.5 months shy of 44 years of being in congressional service, was the longest in U.S. history. Currently, he ranks 31st. 31st. So there have been 30 other people who have served longer than that since 1866. And dare I say, some of the people were probably born, no, just kidding, in 1866. So, what does this have to do with family? I don't know. I really don't know. That's the thing. He had, I think him and his wife had a couple children. I think one of them died young. And another went on just to continue the family business as a farmer. But perhaps his biggest contribution to America during his time in office was the Land Grant College Act, and which was signed into law by Abraham Lincoln in 1862. So it was still while he was a member of Congress. He hadn't yet become a senator from Vermont, but he was a member of Congress. And the Land Grant College Act established federal funding for higher education in every state. So prior to that, there were no state colleges. There were just private colleges. And this Land Grant College Act established federal funding for higher education in every state. And to quote him during one of his speeches, and this is a little bit of a lengthy quote, so bear with me and I'll let you know when it's not him anymore. This bill proposes, and it's funny because it's like one sentence. When I typed this all out, it was like one sentence. And in the back of my mind, as I'm typing this whole thing out, because I'm not going to copy and paste. In the back of my mind, my English teachers from high school were like, this is a run-on sentence. This is a run-on sentence. But back in 1861, 62, it was fine. It was totally fine. It's fine. No need to critique it. It's fine. But I digress. To quote, this bill proposes to establish at least one college in every state upon a sure and perpetual foundation, accessible to all, but especially to sons of toil, where all of needful science for the practical avocations of life shall be taught, where neither the higher graces of classical studies nor that militarily drill our country so greatly appreciates will be entirely ignored, and where agriculture, the foundation of all present and future prosperity, may look for troops of earnest friends, studying its similar and recondite economies, and at last elevating it to that higher level where it may fearlessly invoke comparison with the most advanced standards of the world. Close quote. What? So it seems to me basically he's saying, hey, we're gonna in perpetuity, so forever, we're gonna establish these colleges, at least one in every state, where science will be taught, other things that you need to know in order to survive will be taught, and accessible to everybody, especially those who work hard. A second land grant act in 1890, so 8 years later, targeted the former Confederate states and led to the creation of several historically black colleges and universities. So, he did that. And that's pretty dang cool. And that's just this guy from Vermont. This is a little town in Vermont, Stratford. If you're not looking at this online, if you're listening to the podcast, I suggest that you hop over, follow the links down in the links into the description. There should be a link. Hopefully, if I get this to work right, there's going to be a link there that can send you over to the blog post version of this, and there will be pictures that I took in Stratford of his home and of where he's laid to rest, and of the town common. So it's this very small town in Vermont. You can also Google it if you want. Stratford, Vermont. Look up maps. It's a very small town. It's very picturesque. Very quintessentially New England, if you will. And he did all this stuff way back when. That's amazing. And I'm sitting here doing what? What am I doing? What am I doing? I don't know. He's buried at Stratford Cemetery in Stratford, Vermont, less than half a mile from his home. So you could actually walk there. And the walk is kind of neat if you were to do it. It takes you right through the middle of town, right past the green or the common, which is in front of the church, which is really cool. And his homestead, the Justin Smith Morrill homestead, was recognized as a National Historic Landmark in 1960. So 100 years-ish, not quite, after he did all this cool stuff. And after he passed, so 70 years-ish, 71 years after he passed, it was recognized, his homestead was recognized as a National Historic Landmark. And, lo and behold, it's the first one in the state of Vermont. So, it was the first such honorary designation in Vermont, was the Justin Smith Morrill homestead. And it was done in some great architecture. He designed it himself. He studied architecture so that he would learn how to construct it. It is currently undergoing some renovations, so and it's closed during the winter, so don't rush up there now to go take a look at it. But if you're going to be in this corner of the state next year, I would plan to go look at it. I might go take a tour of it myself. I've driven past it many times. It's right up the road from me. It's like half an hour. And if you're going to be in the area and you're going to go see it, let me know. Maybe if I'm free, we can go have some coffee somewhere. Or we can meet at the general store in town and we can have some coffee there and sit on the grass and talk about life or something. If you're looking at if you're going to go over and look at the print version of this, I have some references in there. So you can do some further investigating on your own. And so how do I tie this in with family? I don't know. I think that it's important that, and this is weird that I'm saying this because I'm 57, almost 57, and certainly 12-year-old me would not have said this, and probably not even 28-year-old me, or maybe not even 35, 36-year-old me would have said this, but I think it's important for families to explore the areas where they live, where they call home, and that might be a little difficult these days, as people don't typically live in one place for as long as they had in the past. Like, we've lived in this house for 20 years. It'll be 20 years, I think, this week that we've lived in this house, and it's longer than the house that I lived in growing up. We lived there for 12 years. And the house we lived in before that, it was like 2 years, a year. or so, and then we lived in an apartment in Connecticut. And then after my parents moved out of the house that I kind of grew up in Bethel, they lived in a house in Essex, Vermont, and they only lived there for, gosh, maybe 10 years? Not even, that can't be 10 years that they lived there. And then they moved to another house, and they lived there for a handful of years. And then they moved, and so people don't seem to settle down like they used to. In my travels, I get to see, in hospice, I get to see a lot of families and homes that this has been in, this is my grandmother's house where she was born, kind of thing. And now my mom is passing away in the same house and stuff like that. And we don't really see that as much. But I think that wherever it is that we decide to live for whatever period of time we're living there, I think it's important for families, especially if you've got kids in the teens, or maybe a little bit younger than that, to explore your area, find out some stuff about the area that you live in, and do it together. Don't just do it online. Anybody can sit on the couch and pop open a laptop or their phone or a tablet or some sort of device and, do some investigating and find out things like this. But I think it's more important to actually get out there and go outside and explore these things and find out these things and walk the land if you can, or walk the neighborhoods if it's safe, and go into those buildings and see those kinds of things together as a family. I have been really nostalgic lately about my family, and there are things that we did as a family that I was like, when we're doing it, I was like, man, I can't believe we have to do this. We have to go to the Bunker Hill Monument again. And, but now I'm like, dang, I've been there, and I get some references about it and I understand some things and, other things in life that you get to explore as a kid that kind of later in life come back around, I think, if you're lucky. So, even though this little history lesson about Senator Justin Morrill, who was born in 1810 and died in 1898, isn't really directly tied to family, I think that overall it's something exploring your area that you live in and things like that deserves some family time, more so than does TV time. So, thank you very much for sticking around and my ramblings. We're on 22 minutes, and next time we're going to be talking about, next week we're going to be talking more about hospice and family, and this is one of those things that I'm a little on the fence about talking about, because not everybody wants to hear about hospice, but we're going to do it anyway just because we can, and we'll see how that goes. And yeah, so thank you very much for staying tuned. I hope everybody has a great rest of the day. And please remember to stay rooted, stay connected, and stay focused. We'll see you again. Be well. All right, bye, everybody.